Hi, it's Sarah here, your neighborhood doctor of physical therapy. This video is all about total hip precautions. So if you have total hip replacement surgery, your surgeon will specify movements for you to avoid to facilitate healing and to prevent dislocation. Your hospital physical therapist will teach you how to do your basic mobility tasks like getting out of bed, standing up, walking, and managing the stairs while adhering to these new movement restrictions or hip precautions that you have. Let's talk about hip precautions. First, I'll tell you about posterior hip precautions. That means that your incision is more towards the back of your hip, and in this case, there's 3 movements to avoid. The first one is bending more than 90 degrees. So if I'm sitting in this chair, the angle between my thigh and my torso is about a right angle, 90 degrees. But I wouldn't want to bend over and tie my shoes because that would make this angle more than 90 degrees and I'd be at risk for breaking my hip precautions. And your hip precautions are in place to promote healing and to prevent dislocation right after surgery. So you'll find in the hospital after a hip replacement, the occupational therapist will set you up with different strategies and equipment to tie your shoe, put your shoes and socks on, things like that, and avoid bending more than 90 degrees. Also, if I have a very low toilet seat at my home, I may get a raised toilet seat, or when I'm going to sit down, I can put my foot out before I sit, keeping this angle within my hip precautions. That's the first movement to avoid. Secondly, you want to avoid crossing your legs, whether that's in the sitting position or laying down. So if you're laying on your side in bed, you would want to have pillows between your legs. And you might find that immediately after surgery, you might have a foam wedge between your legs to help you avoid crossing your legs right after surgery. And then lastly, the movement to avoid is internally rotating your hip. So some people would call that being pigeon-toed. But most of us don't just do that motion just for no reason throughout the day, but another way you could break that precaution is by twisting, because it puts our hip in the same position. So instead of twisting, you have to take small steps to turn. So that's posterior hip precautions. No bending more than 90 degrees, no crossing the legs, and no internally rotating or doing pigeon-toed on that side. Also, we have anterior hip precautions. That is if your incision is more towards the front of your hip. And in this case, the 3 movements to avoid are 1, crossing the legs, 2, bringing the leg in back of you, and 3, externally rotating your hip or bringing your toe out to the side. And again, most of us don't usually just do this position for no reason, but if you were to twist, you'd be putting your hip in the same position. So again, you need to do small steps to turn after a hip replacement. So for anterior hip precautions, it's no crossing the leg, it's no extending your hip, and it's no externally rotating your hip or bringing your toe out to the side. I hope that helps. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave me some comments, like, and subscribe. I love responding to comments. Please let me know what types of videos you'd like to see in the future.